So greetings world and greetings seven spot Jim here with my good friend Mike in wonderful Surrey in the United Kingdom. He's building a low-cost. And greetings Mike, how are you doing?
Greetings, Jim. I'm all right.
Good.
Getting cold now and a little bit rainy,
Oh yeah.
as you would expect from England.
Yeah. Well, I also live in Surrey, British Columbia, and it's also we're getting the duplicate of the weather.
Sorry, that's great.
So anyways, this is going to be an update on your low-cost build. So I'm going to turn this over to you, and you sent me a PDF file, and so I'm going to ask you to take it from here, and I'll operate the screen so that we can go on from one photo to the next.
Yeah, sure. So, folks, as Jim would say, so that is basically a recap of the last year since I got the chassis. So let's start with the first picture. So basically that's the chassis how I bought it. The previous owner, which started the work, he was actually near Crawley. He intended to put a Mazda rotary engine in, and to my knowledge also with a Mazda gearbox and a Mazda rear diff. Yeah, so that's the front pretty much. The rear end wasn't done, which was a blank canvas for me, which was good because I knew I would do things differently anyway. To my surprise, he hasn't used actually the Chris Gibbs layout of the later Locost. He has used the earlier Ron Champion, which I don't know why, but yeah, for me it was great because I wanted to use the Ron Champion design. Jim, can we just click to the next picture? Yeah, that's from the side. You can already see that the rear, where the differential goes, or nearby the differential goes, looks pretty narrow, which you will see later what problems we encountered. Jim, next picture. So that again shows the rear end completely blank. So I had to get the right angle and yeah, basically do the rear end. Suspension brackets, the part for the where the steering column goes, the steering rack goes actually, that needs to be done, as well as the bracket for the radiator and yeah, the rack and some little bits and bobs, handbrake brackets, etc, etc. There's always lots of things which you come up whilst you're on the job basically. Jim, can you just click to the next two pictures? Thank you. So basically that's where everything started at my workplace at the time, with my colleague after work. So next one. That was my engine which I bought. The engine was according to the previous owner, freshly refurbished. I haven't taken it apart yet. I want to give it a test run first. Was freshly painted. I took the rocker cover off. It looks to me that the engine was refurbished. It had definitely stainless steel valves, which means it's an unleaded conversion. 1600 Crossflow out of the Cortina, as you can see, with a Piper 270 camshaft, so slightly modified. Yeah, so we can go to the next picture then. So that's how the welding started on our MOT ramp. There was the first steps for the rear end, that, how can I say, the inclined part of it. Can we go to the next step, Jim? So a pre-cut in my garage in Thames Ditton, the material I needed for the work then. Can we go to the next? And again, some more bars cutted and ready to be welded on. Thank you. So that was a first mock-up. As you can see, not welded on anything yet. It's just literally tacked on. So we can go to the next one. And then we put it on top of axle stands. As you can see, always the location changed because I said I could not do anything during my working time. It was always after work, so I had to remove the chassis during the busy day and then bring it back in the evenings. So yeah, that's how we started. Can we do the next one, please? So my friend Johnny helped me a little bit with the welding to go forward. It's amazing how fast the time goes. Actually, I can't believe that it's already a year since we started with that chassis. I was literally thinking, okay, in a year, easily you can get everything welded, and then you just put all the bodywork on, etc., wiring loom. But you will be surprised if you build it from scratch, how much time you actually need for the whole build. And my initial where I thought, okay, year 1, get the welding done. Year 2, put everything together. I'm not so sure if that can be done if you build everything from scratch. Will be different if you have a chassis built by a manufacturer where everything is ready to go on, where you have actually no surprises as such. Can we go to the next pictures? Thank you. Yeah, so that was when we started with the rear end. The first part's already tacked on. We can go to the next one. I started then with the engine, make it a little bit nicer, put a nice chrome rocker cover on. The engine will have motorbike carbs because I believe they are better in running and a little bit more economical, as I want to build a tourer, not a full end race car or competition car. We can jump to the next one. So here I started, that's not 100% visible. Here you can see I started with the suspension brackets. So I used the brackets for the rear axle as a jig to tack weld it on. And then after that I did the rest of the welding. Important here that you just do it in small steps to avoid big heat going through, because this could distort potentially your work and would make a mess out of it. So we can jump to the next one. So that was when the trailing arms are already in place. I've realized with these polyurethane bushes, I'm not 100% happy with the fitment, so I had to remove a little bit here and there material. They're not as accurate as I thought they are. I bought the trailing arms from MK Sports Cars because they were readily available, rather than you do it yourself, and they come already powder coated, so that was really nice work. Thank you very much to MK Sports Cars. Can we come to the next one? Thank you. So that's when we started to weld on the seatbelt mounts, as well as the mounts for the roll bar. And I use a Westfield roll bar at this time, which so it's not welded on. There's a 12mm bolt which goes through from below, which you can't see. Reason for that is if I decide to change it to any other layout or design, makes it easier to do so. Probably for the Aviators I will leave it as it is. I will not use another one. And it was also readily available and pretty cheap on eBay, second hand, in a good condition. So yeah, can we move to the next one, please? So then we started to do the other bars and see where the fuel tank goes. Meanwhile, I've moved the chassis back to my garage. Reason for that was that I couldn't get as much done as I wanted to at work. Very often after work you're just tired and don't want to do anything. And then on the weekend I don't have really access, because again, Saturdays during the working hours is literally impossible to get anything done, even when I was off on the weekends. So can we move to the next one? Thank you. So that was the pedal box. So the pedal box, I used the design from the Chris Gibbs book, which I believe is a good design, because I intended to use the mass cylinders from a Ford Sierra, and also it comes with a cable clutch. The how can I say, the rear wall is a little bit wider and needs to be trimmed. Again, it's not something major. Good thing is it comes with lots of ready-made parts, which is easy to assemble, relatively easy to assemble. Can we go to the next one? So that's when the problems really started, when I had the rear axle, and I realized that the the bit on the back is far too narrow to fit the axle in. The axle itself is, I believe, is a European Ford Escort, a so-called Köln axle, or in English Cologne. Yeah, so I had to make some space, move the right bar over a little bit further, and also on the tunnel make some modifications. We can move to the next one. So that's again the engine. Step by step I bought parts and started to assemble it. Well, the other parts pretty much. Polished it up a little bit with the rocker cover. Okay, we can move to the next one. So I found on eBay second-hand Bodywork, which I bought, which fits to the chassis. However, I found out that it's probably, with the aluminium parts, probably easiest way if you do it while you build your car and not buy something already made. Reason for that is hard to adapt the bars when you weld it on, and you need to cut and start all over again to get it in the right angle, to get it right so that the bodywork fits. I'm talking particular about the rear part now. Whilst I believe if you just build it and then wrap it around like they do in the book, is an easier option. So that's my advice for you guys. Bodywork was fairly cheap, so yeah, it's not a loss, but it's more work, I believe. So that's when a little bit more progress on the pedal box. So that's the rear plate. Unfortunately, rear plate I had to modify a little bit more because it didn't line up how I wanted to with the master cylinder, etc. Little things, but in general it was there, it was available, so not the end of the world. Can we move to the next one, Jim? So that was the pedal ready to go on, apart from the plates where you put your foot on. That was a little bit tricky to bend in the right shape. I've used our hydraulic press and a forming tool for a pipe bender actually to bend it in the right shape. It's good when you have something to hand. It's perhaps better if you have a proper tool to bend it round. It worked for me. However, sometimes with the right tools, you make your life much easier. We'll move to the next one. Yeah, that was again the plate. When I finished the plate off, pretty much. We can move to the next one. Yeah, that was everything pre-assembled. It still needs to be painted. So we can move to the next one. That's when I started to strip the rear axle and clean off the rust. It was quite a messy work, however, very satisfying. We can move to the next one. Now, that's when I started the modification on the chassis. You can see now that the bar, which obstructed the differential flange, moved further to the right. However, to make space in the gearbox tunnel, I also had to modify, which you can see on the next picture. I had to modify the chassis, the gearbox tunnel on the right hand side, which gives you as a driver a tiny bit less space, but I believe in the end it will be not really much a difference. So what I did, I cut part of the tube, not a full tube, and then I welded another part in, so I bent it over to have an angle, and then I welded another piece in, which I think it was the right solution at this time for the easiest solution. So can we move over to the next one? Yeah, meanwhile I bought the lathe. So now guys, I also can offer you some work on the lathe if required, bushes, linkages, etc. That's when I did my bushes for the panhard rod. Okay, we can move forward. That was just before I tapped it. We can move to the next one. And then that's when I install the rod ends. That's when they already have been tapped and basically ready to go into the tube. Okay, we can move to the next one. So that's when they were already welded in. Here again, what I've learned is a good practice to cut a V shape in order to give a little bit more space for the weld to make it a little bit stronger overall. We can move to the next one. And now that's when I was building the rest of the rear end. That's when I finished after nearly a day, it finally turned out that the bodywork didn't fit 100%, because you cannot replicate 100% the angle where it needs to sit. So the upper part of the barn needed to move a little bit more forward, which I had to start then again. That's what I mean. If you're on it, I think it's much easier to build it according to your needs, the body, to wrap it around it, rather than the other way around. Adapt the chassis to a body. So I'm gonna move to the next one. So that's when we changed the prop shaft. I bought a prop shaft on eBay again. It's supposed to be for Type 3 gearbox, which I use. What I found out that a Type 3 gearbox from Ford has different splines, so we had to change a front yoke. Unfortunately, later on, when I installed everything, it turned out that the prop shaft still, despite it came out from a 7 Locost, it was still too long, and the engine, basically the alternator, would hit, which you can see later on, would hit the chassis. Can we move to the next one? So that's when I start to make a little bit more progress. I've adapted the rear bodywork, or I've adapted the chassis to the rear bodywork. That's the better thing to say. I've welded in the side plates for the chassis where nearby the brackets. Also, a little top tip, I would put a little bit of RTV sealant underneath the brackets, in case if something is vibrating in the future, that it doesn't give you a loud noise. I personally prefer to use word sealant, the black one. I've made I had brilliant experience with it. Really good stuff. Not the cheapest, but I really trust that it's really, really good stuff. So we can move to the next one. So that's when I started to put the bodywork on for the first time. Not 100% happy where the wheel arches sits. I also discovered that with that rear axle is too narrow, so I need to use spacers for the wheels. Yeah, so there's certain things during your build which you encounter which you haven't calculated with. So I was always the opinion that the Ford Escort or Ford Cortina rear axle fits straight away with the original Ford wheels. And according to the book, I couldn't find anything which says differently. However, the wheel literally fouls on the trailing arms, so I need to have a minimum 1-inch spacer on it to give it enough space, or completely different wheels. Okay, we can move to the next one. So that was basically from the other side, the bodywork already on. So we can move to the next one. That's when I took everything off again. We put in the chassis to the ground, removed all the bodywork again to get the engine in for the first time and the gearbox and see where everything fits, because the next step is then the gearbox mounts and the engine mounts. Can we move to the next one, please? So that's when we carefully slide the engine in. So we can move to the next one. And that's what I tried to explain earlier. The engine with that prop shaft is, so basically the prop shaft is far too long, so the whole engine comes too much forward, and alternator would foul literally on that bar, so that wouldn't work. So the prop shaft has to be shortened, and then probably I have to get this done by a company in order to balance it, etc, etc. So in first place, I tried to avoid it, but now I still have to go back to a company. Again, my top tip is don't even think about scrimping money. Just go and let it done by a professional, measure it up, because otherwise you might end up doing things twice. That's what I've learned, really. So we can move to the next picture. Yeah. So another thing is when you put the gearbox in, you also need to put a shifter in and shift through the gears, because there's another bar which the shifter could potentially foul on. That's very important. Yeah, so that's also, you can see on the right hand side that we provisionally put a pedal box in to see how far we can go back with the whole gearbox, etc. Because you also have to bear in mind that you got the clutch lever with the clutch cable, and that could also potentially hit the master cylinder, because my chassis has been modified in that way that I can get the gearbox with the bell housing pretty much to the back. However, again, there was a modification which was made for the Mazda. The previous owner hasn't thought about the left-hand side implication when you put you got two different surfaces really where you have to put later the bulkhead in, and that might be a little bit tricky as well to do when you have two different, how can I say, planes to solve in one go. I might go back to the original design there as well. So we can move to the next picture. Yeah, also I found out that my engine mounts which I bought, which was from a Crossflow, and the others are just upper one, then you got the rubber, and then you got the lower one. So the lower one came from a kit car, didn't fit, as you can see. The upper one fits, but probably for Ford Escort only. Again, waste the time, waste the material. So they will appear soon on eBay. Yeah, so that's how far we came in a year's time. And yeah, deep winter is coming soon. So don't know if I can get much done. Still try to go through as much as I can. But still with the engine mounts, that takes much longer than I thought. Probably next weekend when I'm off, I got a long weekend, I will get on and get more done, and hopefully in a couple of weeks time we got the engine mounts done, and then we can move a little bit further.
Yeah, if you don't mind me just adding it, in my case, I built my 7 from a kit, and it's so much different, but somewhat similar in some ways, in that it's always 2 steps forward and at least 1 step back.
Well, I've expected it much easier when you got a ready-built kit, that you just have steps forwards and not backwards.
Yeah, and so it goes. I mean, and that's the reason why I built mine from a kit. I just didn't trust that I had the technical proficiency to go ahead and build it completely from the book, which I do have. I have Ron Champion's original book, and I just said, you know, I just don't trust myself. So I got basically a kit,
well, Jim, it's not only that, it looks to me that the book is not accurate in certain things, and I think the book has been amended in certain stages. That is not just one car, that is several cars actually built and then put pictures in, etc, etc.
Yeah. Well, it's a, I don't know, it's a place where you have some basic instructions and you can build from there. That's as much as I can. And wow, it's great to catch up with you and to see where you're at. And as I said, we thank you. I'm going to save this, and I will send you a PDF copy of the slideshow. I'll also send you this video so that you can post it up on your socials, on your YouTube page. So I'm just going to say thank you from all of us at 7 Spot, and we look forward to catching up with you later.